So today's video is on finding commercial opportunities and using the information that you do have right now or on financial statements that a client provides you to look for ways to find more business and commercial opportunities in your business. So let's start off with something really easy, and that's the profit and loss. If you have a look through a profit and loss statement, you'll find various expenses which point you towards those commercial opportunities. For example, a really basic one is rent. If someone's paying rent, then that gives you an opportunity to talk to that client about how long is their lease, when are they going to move out if they are, how much longer has it got an expiry, are they going to renew it, that sort of thing. Have they thought about buying their own premises? It just gives you an opportunity to say, well, do these people own this premises or are they renting? Oh, look, they're renting. Okay, have you ever thought about buying? Other opportunities might be that they have an existing loan on their balance sheet. They've come to you for a home loan or a car loan, and you can see a commercial loan sitting on the balance sheet of the business itself or the company itself or one of their other entities. So there's an opportunity for you to say, well, look, while I'm doing this, do you want me to have a look around and see if I can get you a better rate on this commercial loan? How's it going? What's the relationship like with the bank? Can I do that at the same time? Or once we've completed this transaction, can I have the opportunity to have a look at this? There are a couple of items, things like superannuation contributions. Why is that an opportunity? Well, it's an opportunity because if they're putting in extra super, you can say to them, you'll ask them, do you have your own self-managed super fund? And if they do, is there an opportunity for you to help them with a property purchase in that SMSF? So I'll be asking those sorts of questions, having a look for that type of expense. Motor vehicle expense is another one. If they've got motor vehicle expenses, do they own their own vehicles? If they do, are they under lease? When is it coming up? How can you find that out? Have a look on the balance sheet. Maybe they've got car loans in their own name and they might be better off having them in the business name. Following on from the profit and loss balance sheet. So a couple of things we talked about before. Do they have loans on the balance sheet? Are you able to look at refinancing those as a package? What about things like, do they have an asset on their balance sheet as well? They might own a property and have no loan. And if that's the case, if it's an unencumbered property, have they thought about investment? Have they thought about expanding? What are they doing with that equity, or do they want to keep it unencumbered? Also, other items such as debtors. We've talked about debtor finance before. So if you've done those calculations, you can have a look at it and say, well, you're owed quite a bit of money here. It seems like your creditors are quite low. You don't have a lot of cash in the bank. You're finding any cash flow problems or got any strains there. How often do people pay? So that's sitting on the balance sheet is the debtors days, obviously, or debtors, and you can use that as an opportunity to strike up a conversation about whether or not they've ever thought about funding it. Do they have an overdraft? Have they heard about debtor finance? Large amounts of stock on their balance sheet. So you might say, how do you fund your stock? Is it imported? Just think about the business, obviously. Where do you get it from? How do you fund it? Do you have to pay cash? I've got a small business at the moment I'm dealing with. She has to import her stock, and then she's got some people who aren't paying her quickly enough, and so we're looking at a facility to give us some trade finance on one side and then debtor finance on the other, which I've explained to you previously. So there's lots of opportunities there in both just the profit and loss and the balance sheet. The other place to look at is the depreciation schedule. You don't always receive this, and if there's high depreciation in the profit and loss, then I'd be looking for it, I'd be asking for it. It'll give you a list of all of the assets that they own, when they bought them, what they've been written down to in value. And it's a good idea just to go through that and ask them, are you thinking of replacing these assets soon? Oh yeah, we've got a car, it's coming up, the balloon payment's coming up for it, it's due. When's it due? Oh, in the next 12 months. Okay, great. Why don't we have a look at refinancing that for you? Or are you going to buy a new car and would you like to get a quote from us to help you finance it? Or any of the other type of equipment, depending on whether they're a manufacturer or some kind of distributor. They may have, forklifts, they may have pallet, racking, any type of equipment. If they own their own commercial property, you could talk to them about solar panels and finance that. So there's plenty of opportunities just in the information that the client gives you. Before you've even had a conversation with them, you can identify these opportunities. The other thing to think about is what industry are they in. So for example, one of our clients has got about 13 vans. on the road. They're electricians, and they do a lot of kilometres, and so as a result they need a replacement every couple of years. And so that's a fleet, basically 17 vehicles. You could do the whole package, or you could get them an approval for a master limit and then roll those vans through every 2 to 3 years. And they're on the depreciation schedule. They've got high motor vehicle costs and fuel costs, and it's just the type of business that is. So maybe they're a sales business, maybe they're a real estate business, and they run a rent roll and they've got 3 or 4 property managers. Maybe they provide those property managers with vehicles. So how are they funding them? Often they're smaller, cheaper cars, $15,000 to $20,000, but it's still an opportunity. If they're in real estate, do they have a rent roll? And if they have a rent roll, it's not going to be on their profit and loss and balance sheet necessarily, because they might have built it up organically rather than buying it. So when you're talking to them about their business, we get on their profit and loss, you'll see they'll get real estate sales plus rental property income. Okay, so there's an opportunity for you to talk to them about the fact that they've got a rent roll. Do they have finance against it? If they don't, have they thought about buying another rent roll? And you'll see in some of the other videos that I've done previously that you can fund rent rolls up to 60%, maybe even 70% with some banks. I think NAB's not 70% at the moment. Westpac were quite good in that space. Macquarie were okay in it for a while. It depends on the bank, but those are probably the 3 that I'd have a look at for rent rolls just now. And so those are the kinds of opportunities that you can find just by thinking about the industry that the client's in. Are they in the sales industry where they need vehicles? Are they a builder? Maybe they've got a few vehicles that they use for themselves. Are they an electrician? They've got vans. Any type of industry needs some type of financing, usually for vehicles or equipments to start off with, but often commercial premises. One of our clients is a mechanic. He just wanted to buy his own premises because he'd been there for a long time under lease, and all of his clients knew where he was, and he didn't want to move. So for him, that was a benefit in buying the commercial premises from the landlord. And he'd been thinking about that for 18 months to 2 years before the expiry came up. He didn't just suddenly, within 3 months, think, I want to go and buy a property. So you can set them up for that and diarise to contact them, make sure they're on track with their deposit, maybe use some equity in the home. The other thing that I want to talk about is opportunities like that. So if you're a finance broker who can find an opportunity for helping people out with debtor finance, you might find that you can pay out an existing overdraft. Now that overdraft could well be secured by a house, and as a mortgage broker you now have the opportunity to talk to that client about using that extra equity that you've just freed up for maybe investing. I've had lots of clients who say, look, we'd like to invest in something, but we've got this $200,000 overdraft, it's against the house, so we're really hamstrung, we can't do anything with that. Well, if you use debtor finance to pay out the overdraft, then you're releasing that equity in the property, and then they can use it for something else. So not only have you transferred their cash flow to an unsecured facility against the business alone, but you've released an amount of equity that they might use for investment in the future. There's plenty of opportunities to look at, and the information you get, even just for say self-employed people, consultants, etc. I guarantee you that they've got a car or need a car that they want financed, and at some stage they'll want an office or a premises, etc., and they'll need fit out. And there's plenty of those opportunities to look for. You just have to think about what type of industry are they in and what's on their balance sheet, profit and loss, depreciation schedule. Where can you put that into the conversation? And that's something that we'll talk about in a future video in terms of business conversations. I'll run you through a bit of a role play to give you an idea of the types of questions that you can ask. Thanks for now.